Welcome, everybody, to the Lorcana Lair. My name is Garrick, and today we're bringing you more round two coverage of the Lorcana Cross Continental Championship. And today's match I'm super excited about. We have two masters of their respective color combinations going up against one another, two senseis of their respective dojos, if you will. We have NoImNot, the Ruby Amethyst expert. Some would say he is one of, if not the best Ruby Amethyst player in the world, going up against the Emerald Amethyst progenitor Artabax. So this is a really exciting matchup for me personally because I've been coached by both of these players. It's going to be really hard for me to root for one or the other, but I think it is one of the most exciting matches of all of round two. So very pleased to be casting and hosting this match for all of you. With me today, I have writer and editor for The Gamer, Eric Switzer, who recently put out an amazing piece on Diablo, the Devoted Herald, talking to some of the best players, most prominent players in the world about whether or not the card should be banned. So definitely after all of the Lorcana today, go and check that out. Eric, how are you feeling?
Good, Garrick. Thanks, man. I'm excited. I've been really enjoying this series. This is my first game I've had the chance to cast, so I'm glad we get to do it together.
Yeah, for sure. This, like I said, is going to be an amazing one, and there has been some amazing Lorcana all day today. Thank you to the Lorcana villain Baker for hosting the previous two matches where North America was able to win one and Europe was able to win one. Also great to see Wonderland and Brent Mukai co-casting with him those earlier matches today. And we have even more Lorcana coming after this, but let's talk about the matchup that we have today. Up on your screen, you should see Artabax. Eric, tell us about Artabax and what Artabax is bringing in today's match.
Yeah, so like you said, Artabax is the progenitor of the Gurple deck, and the reason for its popularity and its success. It's really interesting when you look at the DLC results. This color combination is far more popular on the European side than the North American side, and I think you can definitely credit Artabax with that specifically. So this version of the deck, it is including some new cards, of course. I think we've got four Azurite Sea cards that we can touch on here. The one drop Diablo, I think you're going to see that in every Amethyst list going forward.
Yeah, very
Just
popular.
yeah, very popular little card draw. Quester, of course, the Go Tamago in Emerald. That two drop we got to see go off to pretty incredible effect in Artabax's game against San Syed last week. And then we also have the White Rose, sort of the baby goat. And then that four drop Genie with the card draw, the evasive, two lore. How can that not be an amazing card? So no surprise, Artabax included four of them in this list. Otherwise, the framework of it is what we have seen the last at least two sets. Pretty familiar Amethyst Emerald deck.
Yeah, we also have that one of Gazelle in there as
Right.
well, who is able to give a character evasive when they come in. I believe that's in there, like we were talking about before, just because of that Diablo that everyone has been up in arms about. But
Of course.
yeah, I really like this list from Artabax. This is a color combination that I've been flirting with a lot. I'm a Ruby Amethyst player, but I see it. It looks
Mm.
like a lot of fun. It can go aggressive. It can go into the mid game, and even has some late game tools with things like the Ursula and the Clarabelle. So it's definitely a very enticing list for me. So we'll see what I decide to play. I'm going to try to go to Continentals, and it's going to be one of these two, I think. One of these two color
Yeah,
combinations.
it's a very aggressive deck. You can see it's got a lot more one drops than maybe some other decks might have, and that sort of speaks to where the Azurite Sea meta is right now. It's a very fast meta, and you need, especially a deck that doesn't have a ton of removal, like Emerald Amethyst. You need a deck that can keep the pressure on, and that's how Artifacts built this deck.
Yeah, really excited to see how that goes up against No I'm Not's Ruby Amethyst because it does tend to be a pretty tough matchup for Ruby Amethyst. Let's go ahead and take a look at No I'm Not here. Very popular player for Team Labyrinth. Of course, has a ton of top finishes, top 16 in Atlanta, top 32 in Vegas. I believe he was also made day two in Seattle and was the number one or number two seed after Swiss. He has two top fours at the very popular and prominent CCS 10Ks that we get down in the South every few months. He's gotten top twos at Atlanta SCGs. He's gotten third in the pack tournaments and 15 plus top fours in various 1Ks and 2Ks over his career. So he is a very consistent and prominent force in the Ruby Amethyst community. And taking a look at his deck, we do have a couple of new cards in here, but it's mostly going to be cards that we've seen from the previous set. The Ruby Amethyst framework, as you will, has been pretty consistent since really set 2, just adding a few cards and a few upgrades here or there. Flynn and Sisu was a huge upgrade that we got during Ursula's return, along with Brawl, which is a necessary evil potentially for, again, taking care of Diablo. But the only two cards that we see in here from the new set are two copies of that genie. So he's not using a ton of the new cards from the new set, but that genie is exceptionally powerful and I think is being represented in both players' decks.
Yeah, consistent is really the perfect word to describe Kendall, his playstyle, and his deck. I mean, this Ruby Amethyst deck is not one that has evolved quickly, and that's because it hasn't really needed to. The core of the deck has remained pretty consistent since set 3, and this is NoImNot's main deck, and he has just proven to be such a force of nature with it. It's really, if you put this deck in his hands, he's going to do some pretty impressive things with it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the interesting count we get here on the back end is of the Lady Tremaine and the Madame Medusa. It's always a question of how many of each one of those cards do you want to run? You want to keep your uninkable count in check. Sometimes it's a 3-1 split. Sometimes it's, 3-0. We see a 2-2 split here. I think this is the meta to bring Tremaine back into more prominence and use her to great effect. She quests for 2. She removes something on the opposite side of the board. I've always been a really big fan of Tremaine, as well as B King Undisputed. We don't see any copies of that here, but Tremaine is an excellent tool, especially against control decks.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see a very similar back and forth between Merlin Rabbit and Genie going forward that we see with those two red ladies. How many should you have of each? What's the right balance? Do we favor one or the other? And as the meta evolves, we'll see those numbers shift around back and forth.
Yeah, that's also a really good point because being a Ruby Amethyst player, I've been struggling with what am I going to do with these genies and what am I going to do with these rabbits? Because every time I play Genie, it just feels like such a powerful card, and if your opponent can't answer it really quickly, and there are very solid answers to the card, don't get me wrong, especially in Steel and in Ruby, but if they don't have those answers available to them or they're playing another combination that doesn't necessarily have a clean answer to that card, it can quest very easily, get a ton of lore on the board, and it replaces itself as soon as it comes down. So it sort of is like Diablo. It's a card that needs to be answered very quickly or things can snowball out of control for your opponents. So I'm not sure. Are we going 2-4 on the rabbits, the genies, 3-3? It's going to be another one of those splits, like you were saying.
Yeah, that's going to be the big question, and I think that the position of the Queen's Castle is really interesting too because we've seen an Artabax list moving away from the locations entirely, whereas this Ruby Amethyst list still valuing what those castles can do, particularly after a Be Prepared or once you have control of the board, how much additional card draw value and lore value you can get from those castles. So NoImNot still wants to find a place to fit those in, and maybe that's at the expense of having more genies in this list, you know?
Yeah, I think that the castle is really interesting in the current meta. Like you just said, the genie is something that could potentially replace the castle. The meta seems to be getting faster. The game seems to be getting a bit faster as all of these decks get new tools every single set. We're getting so many new cards every few months that sometimes these cards that have been in the game for a long time, very well established cards, are sort of getting phased out. And Genie could be a potential replacement for that Queen's Castle. In a recent big tournament in California, prominent Ruby Amethyst player Edmund Chu was able to get first place running a deck with no Queen's Castle in it. He was playing Ruby Amethyst. So it's interesting to see no, I'm not here. Sticking with the castle, it is tried and true. He knows how to play it. He knows when to put the castles out and when they can punish his opponent to the greatest effect. But on Artabax's side, he's got seemingly all the answers you would ever want to something like a Queen's Castle. He's got the Merlin Crabs. He's got the Merlin Fox. He's got the Peter Pan Shadowfinder. He's got the Elsa, the Fifth Spirit. There's so many different choices that he'll have available to him to take down a castle. So it's going to be really important for No, I'm Not to deploy those castles at the right time.
Yeah, we'll see if he even can find an opening for them. But overall, you know, you mentioned earlier that traditionally this has been a difficult matchup, at least throughout set five. This was a difficult matchup for Ruby Amethyst. Now that the Amethyst Emerald has evolved to be even more aggro oriented, how do you see this matchup evolving now?
I think it's really uphill for the Ruby Amethyst deck for sure. There are so many new tools that Artabax has and will be taking advantage of. Like we mentioned, he does have 4 of those genies, which are going to get out the gate very quickly. I think that No, I'm Not is going to want to get on board early with the classic Flynn Sisu and leverage that as well as he can, and then try to just get card advantage and maintain board advantage. But there's one thing that Emerald Amethyst is great at, and that is controlling the board with characters on the board. However, Ruby does have the option for instant removal with things such as Lady Tremaine, Madame Medusa, Maui, who can come in and challenge immediately, as well as Be Prepared. So it's one of the deepest matchups and one of the greatest rivalries, I think, that we have in Lorcana, these two color combinations. So I'm really, really excited to see how it plays out. The only thing that No, I'm Not needs to be aware of, really, as far as keeping too much of card advantage in his hand, is that Clarabelle, because that Clarabelle can close the gap immediately. If No, I'm Not is getting out of hand, he's bouncing his rabbits, and Artabax maybe hasn't found his card draw engine, a Clarabelle can remedy that in a single turn.
Yeah, and he'll also be needing to, as you mentioned with those Flynn Riders and wanting to get that early lore pressure on, he'll also need to be cognizant of that kick cloud kicker because it's just perfectly positioned to punish that Flynn and take the tempo away from him. So that's a huge tool that the that Artabax's list has against what has traditionally been one of Ruby Amethyst's greatest strengths.
Yeah, for sure. There are so many things in the early game that can disrupt No, I'm Not's game plan, from the bonsai to that kit cloud kicker that you mentioned. It's really going to be very interesting to see how No, I'm Not approaches this. I'm sure he's been in the lab, no pun intended, playtesting with his fellow teammates. Of course, Zenulus is a Emerald Amethyst expert as well. So I'm sure that No, I'm Not has been leveraging his teammate there to practice this matchup going into this game with Artabax. But I cannot wait. The players are getting ready right now, it seems. So we'll be heading into this match shortly. I do want to take a look at the standings here after the first round and basically the first half of round 2. We are 5 games for North America to 8 on the European side. North America has been clawing their way back into this. It was 2-6 after the first round and now just down 3 instead of down 4. This match is going to see if that lead gets extended back to 4 or if NoImNot is able to close the gap even further and bring it in just 2 games.
Yeah, and both of these players were able to win their round 1 games. NoImNot was one of only 2 North American players to take his game in round 1. So this is a bit of a pivotal moment. We'll see if if NA can keep that momentum and claw back further, or if Artabax is going to be able to stand his ground and keep EU on top.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that both players were able to take a match in the first round, and that match that NoImNot had against Buonasera was one of the most exciting matches I've ever watched in Lorcana's history. There were so many outs that Buonasera was able to potentially draw into with his deck, but just wasn't able to find them. NoImNot was be preparing his own side of the board to prevent anything like Super Goo from gaining any lore, and it was just so intense. Great match to see, and that match between Zan and Artabax was another nail biter that went into game 3. Artabax really, I think, at a disadvantage in that match, but was able to pull it out. It looks like the players are ready, so we're going to go ahead and join the game for you right now. We'll see you in just 1 second.
Like my best because I knew that he only.
All right, we are in here, and it looks like we are ready to go. We have our emblems on the correct side here. And we are into this match. Looks like Pablo was just doing something there on the back end, so you're not missing anything right now. The players are just shuffling up, and they will be doing their alter phase here in just a moment.
Oh, we could hear the players. Can the stream hear the players as well?
I have the stream muted, so they cannot hear the players right now.
Gotcha.
Sorry, I was muted. Before we get started here, I would like to take a moment to shout out our judge here, Phil. All of his information is linked down below if you would like to follow him on his Twitter as well as his Blue Sky account. So he's been judging a ton of these games. I think maybe he's judged all of them today. So definitely show your support, give him a follow, and tell him you love him. We love to see him on our side, keeping everything in check, and he's able to answer questions for us on the back end. Very useful. So thank you to Phil.
Phil is a definitely a local legend here in Southern California. He's an organizer and a judge, and just such a great supportive figure for Lorcana here in Southern California.
It looks like the players just rolled some dice, and I saw a 3 on the side of NoImNot and a 1 on the side of Artabax, so that could be signaling a North American on the play for this match, which is definitely what Ruby Amethyst wants to do. Like we were saying, this is a pretty tough matchup for Ruby Amethyst in this set, especially with everything that Emerald Amethyst has been able to get in the new set, and Artabax is taking full advantage of those new cards.
Yeah, there's so much overlap between these two decks, both being Amethyst, of course, and part of me wonders how much this is going to come down to a battle of the genies, because they both are going to have to take very different approaches to dealing with it. Of course, NoImNot's list runs 4 Brawls, which is kind of a perfect answer to a 4-cost uninkable evasive. Whereas Artabax is going to have to leverage those crabs to basically use his own Genie, his own Elsas to trade. So it's going to be interesting to see who's able to get those Genies out first.
Taking a look at the player's hands here, Artabax has 3 Go-Go's in his hand currently. Not necessarily something he wants to see early game, but it is an option available to him. It does come down for 2, and it is inkable, but he does have that Cursed Merfolk, which can come down on turn 1. Looks like he's going to keep one of those Go-Go's, potentially an Elsa, or get rid of 5 here.
Meanwhile, NoImNot's looking at a couple of Sisus, an Elsa, a Fox, Be Prepared, a Brawl, and a Goat. A lot of things you might not want to keep in your opening hand. It looks like he's just hanging onto that Sisu, hoping that in his other 6 cards, I imagine that he'll find the Flynn Rider and a 1-drop.
Yeah, looking for that curve. 1-drop, very important. Oh, 3 snakes.
And a Fox. That's a tough opening. Whether you're on the play or the draw, that's a tough opening.
Yeah, and it looks like Artabax has the perfect curve. He's got 3 1-drops. He's got a 2-drop. He's got a 3-drop and 2 Genies in his hand. Now, he is really low on inkables, so he needs to find some inkables on his draw, but no, I'm not already looking in a pretty tough position right here. Not going to be able to play anything on turn 1. Not going to be able to play anything on turn 2 unless he draws into a 1-drop or a Flynn Rider on his first draw. And then turn 3 is the first time he'll be able to put a character on the board if he doesn't find something on that first draw. So right now, looking really, really tough for NoImNot on the get-go.
It is true, but that turn 4 Fox, turn 5 Maui, there's plenty of opportunities to take control back with some favorable trades. So I don't think he'll be too far behind just by missing out on the first 2 turns here.
Yep, we'll see how it goes. Looks like we just inked and passed. Artabax decides to put an Ursula Deceiver into the inkwell, and a Cursed Merfolk comes down onto the board. We'll see what NoImNot is able to draw here, if he's able to get something onto the board on his turn 2, or if he will have to wait for that turn 3, another Fox.
I can imagine when Artabax sees another pass here on turn 2, he's going to be tempted to just dump out those 1-drops and go as wide as possible as fast as he can.
Yeah, potentially ink the Go-Go here and put out a Diablo with another Cursed Merfolk. NoImNot in a really tough position. He'll have to answer 5 lore on the board. And he does just that.
A lot of pressure. That's exactly what Artabax wants to do with this very aggressively built Emerald Amethyst deck.
Cursed Merfolk quest for 2, and we draw a Goat. So here we're likely going to see the Sisu come down. We're going to need to contest this board somewhat. And then, like you said, there are available options for things like Fox or Maui, but potentially next turn you just want to stick another character, not necessarily pull one back to your hand. So Goat could be a good option to try and battle for the board here.
Yeah, with no brawls in hand, he's going to have to be discarding cards to deal with the Merfolk. So you're right, keeping characters on the board rather than in the hand is better.
We see a Go-Go go into the inkwell. The White Rose comes down, one of those new cards we were talking about. The Baby Goat does gain Artabax an additional lore and puts a 3/3 body onto the board, which will be able to go up against the Goat. But NoImNot finds the Genie, which could be a decent option here. It's a 2/4 that can fight back for the board. It can't be traded with by Fox, for example, and there are no evasives available for Artabax on the board right now.
NoImNot under a lot of pressure here. Has to make the exact right plays here on out. Was that 2 Go-Go's in the inkwell for Artabax?
I believe so, yes.
Something NoImNot is definitely keeping in mind.
So NoImNot does decide to bounce back the Sisu to remove more of those threats. He was just feeling that pressure, like you were saying, and it was a bit too much for him. So he wanted to remove 2 characters this turn using the Fox, using the Sisu, and then he discarded the Sisu to the Curse Merfolk. So it did its job. Next turn, Maui can come down and continue to try and control this board that Artabax is trying to build up and quest aggressively with. We'll see what Artabax decides to do. We see a Chernobog's followers go into the Inkwell, and the Genie comes down, which will draw him a card. Ooh, the Gazelle is very interesting.
Now, the Genie here might indicate that Artabax isn't concerned about a brawl, but having a second Genie in hand, a sort of backup Genie, if you will, kind of makes that risk assessment move in his favor.
We do see a Lady Tremaine in the hand for NoImNot here. We're likely going to see the Maui. Again, we just need to control the board here. It's all right if we give Artabax an additional card. We need to take these questers out. He's already at 10 just on his turn 4. We'll see what NoImNot decides to do, though.
These rush characters are really helping them take the control back quickly. But going into turn 6, Artabax is going to be fully aware that one of those 2 red ladies is probably going to be coming down. So we'll see how he intends to play around that.
Yeah, I know NoImNot would probably want to see the other one here, the Madame Medusa. That way he can target a Genie. But if 2 Genies come down, basically the same thing, but it's quest for 2.
Right. Already at 12 lore here on turn 6.
We do see the second Genie come down, draws an additional card, gets a Diablo. And that goat is available for Artabax, so if he starts to find the bounce package, that could spell the end for NoImNot. NoImNot needs to start establishing some threats of his own.
And yeah, the second Genie makes a lot of sense here because Artabax is saying, I don't care which, if you have Tremaine or Medusa, it's going to be the same outcome for me. I'm going to be able to keep one of these Genies in play, questing for 2 every turn.
Yep, and we see the Ursula go into the Inkwell, that beautiful set championship prize card, Enchanted, go into the Inkwell, unfortunately. Puts down a Diablo, just have more lore pressure onto the board, and that blocks the Tremaine play. So, NoImNot couldn't even do it regardless because he had 3 uninkables in his hand. So he's going to ink the Flynn and then maybe do a Be Prepared next turn, but missing that ink on that turn and not being able to play Tremaine hurt.
Yeah, we're looking Be Prepared or bust here.
Yeah. But the Tremaine would have been blocked by the Diablo, and I think Artabax would have been more than happy to get rid of that Diablo, draw a card, and keep 2 Genies. So unfortunately missed an ink, but the Diablo was there to block the Tremaine.
Now, Artabax must assume that Be Prepared is coming here, so it'll be interesting to see what he's willing to commit to the board at this point. Obviously, the Diablo will draw him a card, so that's a pretty low-risk investment to make. But what else do you think he'll be willing to play here at 17 lore?
Yeah, you got to anticipate that the Be Prepared is coming down. I think I would just put Diablo, potentially the Gazelle as well. I think that's another, again, low-risk investment that can shore up his chances to win should the Be Prepared not come down, because he'll have 2 characters that can quest, plus he'll have the goat, so that will be the 3 lore he needs to get over the finish line if these other 3 characters that are exerted are removed. But NoImNot draws another uninkable, and that's going to be it.
That's going to be the game. What an explosive showing here for the Emerald Amethyst. Obviously, NoImNot's starting hand, pretty difficult position to be in, but just the sheer questing power of that Emerald Amethyst deck is pretty formidable.
Yeah, unfortunately for NoImNot, that was one of the worst opening hands he could have considering the number of inkables he had, which was pretty good. He just had, what do you have, 3 snakes and a fox? That's just not what you want to
Right.
see when you're on the play. We were talking at the beginning here about getting that one drop, getting that Flynn, getting that Sisu, and forcing the Emerald Amethyst deck to be the reactive one and not be the proactive deck. But I mean, for all intents and purposes, NoImNot was on the draw that game because he just had nothing to play on turn one, nothing to play on turn two, and Artabax was able to flood the board early. So really unfortunate set of circumstances for NoImNot. Great win by Artabax. Hopefully, we do get some better hands from both players and see a more competitive match. I think NoImNot played to the best of his ability, but missing that ink on turn 6, missing the ink on turn 7, there's just no way for him to get back into the game without being able to cast that Tremaine and follow up with the Be Prepared.
Yeah, and as unfortunate as the hand was, credit to Artabax for fully seizing on a correct read that he needed to go as fast as he could because he had an opening in those first few turns to get out ahead and to set the pace of the game.
Yeah, most definitely. And just so everyone is aware, we are not missing anything right now. The players are just shuffling up, so you have a chance to take a look at their decks here in between the games. They are cutting their decks right now, and I think this is going to be really, really interesting to see what happens with NoImNot here because, like we mentioned before the match even began, there were so many available answers to these early game threats that NoImNot could put down. Like the Flynn gets shut off by the Bonsai, it can be shut off by a Cloud Kicker. So we'll see what happens here.
Yeah, and with just the 6 1 drops in NoImNot's deck, it's not entirely surprising that he wasn't able to find one at all in that game, right? There was no 1 drop that ever entered his hand in that game. And that puts him in a difficult position when you can't play your 2 drop snake without a 1 drop. It leaves just the Flynn Rider as really your only turn 2 option here, which isn't the strongest play against this Emerald Amethyst deck.
Yeah, you want to be able to establish that early game board presence, and like you were saying, with only 6 1 drops, it's tough for NoImNot to find those, and he needs to, I think, in this matchup for his Brooms and his Chernobyls to take out these Diablos, to take out these Cursed Merfolk early in the game, and potentially trade up with something like Chernobyls into a Bonsai, for instance. So let's get
Right.
back into the game as the players are doing their altar phase. What do you think of Artabax's potential opening hand here? He's got a couple 1 drops, well, 3 1 drops and a 2 drop.
Yeah, another opportunity for him to go wide, to dump his hand early, and then to start refilling with the genie. I can see him keeping all of his 1 drops here. It obviously worked out really well for him in the first round.
And it looks like he's thinking about doing that, keeping all the 1 drops and sending everything but the Bonsai back into his deck. NoImNot
Meanwhile,
was able to find a 1 drop and a snake, so that's huge for him.
yeah, and prioritizing that brawl there, I think, is a really smart move. Having an answer if that genie comes out, or really just having an answer to a lot of Artabax's early game cards.
Does have 3 uninkables in his opening hand, does NoImNot. So he's going to need to find some ink here, unlike the last game where he missed on 2 turns, finding the ink when he needed it. But on Artabax's side, only 3 uninkables.
Yeah, mulliganed into that Peter Pan Shadow Finder, a one of that's in the deck as an answer for the Diablo. Obviously, that's not a problem here, so I don't think he'll be able to find much value out of that Peter Pan in this matchup. But as an uninkable, we'll likely see it in play at some point.
Yeah, it's going to have to hit the board at some point unless he just never plays it. But while we are in between the games here before it starts off, I want to thank everybody for joining us, and thank you to Pavel for hosting this amazing Cross Continental Challenge. If you are here and you are enjoying the games, you are enjoying the casting as well, please, if you wouldn't mind, give us a like. It does help the channel grow, and it helps other people find the live stream who may be looking for it or may stumble upon it. So if you're in the live chat and you're enjoying what you're seeing, please give us a like. It does help out. So here we go into the first turn. We're going to Inca Friends on the other side, put down a Chernobog's followers for No I'm Not, and he's likely going to follow that up with a Madam Mim Snake, and hopefully he draws another Inkable on this next turn.
Artabax inking that Ursula, not worried about a Be Prepared this early in the game and wanting to make sure that those 1-drops are in hand so that he can get out and go wide.
Oof. And we called it. Needs that ink, and what does he get? A rabbit off the top of the deck, forced to ink his Brawl. Now, he will have an ink in the form of the Chernobog that he returned to his hand, but he'd want to get that Chernobog on the field, you would think, unless he draws a Sisu or something like that.
Yeah, and that Brawl was kept pre-mulligan, so he obviously valued it a lot, so it's unfortunate to have to see it hit the ink. Artabax follows up with the Bonsai rather than 2 1-drops. What do you think about that?
Yeah, the Bonsai is strong. It does challenge into the Madam Mim and remove basically everything in the early game that that No I'm Not will be able to deploy here, especially, you know, in the first 3 turns or so, if no Sisus are found. And it does trade up into a Fox as well. So just a really strong body that also quests for 2. We do see the Chernobogs come down. The Flynn goes into the ink. So the Chernobog will likely be the one taking down the Bonsai, unless No I'm Not needs to draw next turn to get another Inkable and play either the Genie or the Rabbit here.
Yeah, and he might be in that position. We see discarding the Tremaine there, keeping those card draw, those lower curve cards in hand. But he's going to need to find those Inkables, like you said.
Artabax has a ton of options available to him going here into his turn 3. Thinking about inking the Goat, could deploy 3 1-drops on this turn if he felt so inclined. But then you only have an Elsa and a Peter Pan in hand, so you'd be running low on ink yourself if you're Artabax and do go with that line. So we'll see what he decides to do.
Yeah, and again, interesting situation here with the Peter Pan. Almost a dead card in this matchup. But he does go ahead and ink the Goat and play out 3 1-drops.
Decides to challenge into the Madam Mim Snake with the Bonsai instead of questing there.
I think that makes sense.
Yep.
Otherwise, the Chernobog gets straight into it, and then you have this 3/3 threat on the board that can take out multiple characters. So the 1-for-1 trade makes more sense.
Agree.
From Artabax's position.
We do see a Brawl come into No I'm Not's hand here, so he does have ink available to him. Wondering if he's thinking about questing and finding another card to potentially keep the Brawl, but decides to put a Rabbit onto the board instead of the Genie. Gonna draw here. Finds a Maui, which is pretty strong. I think No I'm Not is in a much better position now, being able to find the ink that he needed, thankfully.
Mm-hmm. Now, the Rabbit over the Genie there, what are your thoughts?
I think it's pretty good. Right now, the Rabbit can take out anything on Artabax's side of the board and remain on the board itself. So I don't think No I'm Not necessarily needs the lore pressure that the Genie represents. So putting down a Merlin allows him to challenge any of these characters, and then if he draws a Snake or a Fox off the top, he'll draw another card when the Merlin is returned to his hand. So I think, given the circumstances, it was the right play to go for the Rabbit.
Yeah, especially with so few Inkables in hand. He needs all the card draw he can get. Was that a inking a Rose?
That was Elsa, the 5th Spirit, going into the Inkwell with the Genie coming down onto the board. He has a Crab and a Rabbit available to him, along with that Peter Pan. We were talking about the Crab being such a huge card in this matchup. It is something that will allow Artabax to trade unfairly into No I'm Not's side of the board. For example, if there were 2 Genies out there, the Crab comes down, Genie can take out Genie and remain on the board. And we do see that Snake come down, so potentially bouncing the Rabbit here if No I'm Not wants it, but decides to go with the Genie. Gets another Snake.
Yeah, bringing out the Genie to answer the other genie potentially.
Yep, but that crab is in Artabax's hand waiting, so we'll see what happens. If No I'm Not ever quests with his genie, it's likely going to see the discard pile shortly thereafter. No I'm Not has the opportunity here to quest with the rabbit if he wants, or quest with the Chernabog and pop it to draw a card, but decides to pass. Go over to Artabax, who finds a Go-Go Tamago.
Gogo is interestingly positioned here. Of course, like you said, the crab is going to be a great way to trade one genie into the other, but also having a 2/4 that can take some damage on the board does open up the opportunity to get some extra lore value out of Gogo.
Looks like he might be going on a quest here with the genie. Feels pretty safe to do that. I don't believe there are any crabs in No I'm Not's list. Correct me if I'm wrong.
There's no crabs in his list. He does play Elsa, so an Elsa plus the genie could challenge Artabax's genie together.
Yep, that would be huge if No I'm Not's able to find that off the top. Cleanly remove that genie. Crab would be far less of a threat. But I think he is baiting No I'm Not here with that crab in his hand. Maybe wants to see No I'm Not quest with his genie. But if No I'm Not is anticipating that potentially happening as he quests with a Chernabog for 1 and banishes it to draw an additional card, if No I'm Not anticipates that the crab might be there, you could always challenge genie into genie right now, and then if he wants to challenge back, he has to lose his genie as well. So that's an option, but the Peter Pan Shadow Finder kind of mucks that up as well.
Right.
Decides to quest the rabbit, likely going to bounce it here with the snake to find some more available answers from his deck. Does do that.
If you're No I'm Not, what are the answers you're looking for right now?
I think you're looking for stuff like Madame Medusa. Just cleanly remove things like the genie or, Brawl, of course, to get rid of those genies. Unfortunately, did have to ink 2 of his Brawls, if I'm not mistaken. The rabbit comes down again after the Maui goes into the inkwell, finds a goat, but I think Madame Medusa or Brawl to just get rid of this genie is something that No I'm Not would love to see.
That sticks ink in No I'm Not's well, so Artabax knows that the potential for Be Prepared is here, which might slow down his attempt to expand his board presence somewhat.
Yep, the genie is exerted on No I'm Not side, so we do have the option for the Merlin Crab to come down, cleanly remove that, but he may just want to quest if he thinks a B prep might be coming down, like you said.
Yeah, and questing out would give No I'm Not the opportunity to trade cleanly and use that Tremaine to clean up.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think Artabax is in a position to fully quest out, even if he believes that Be Prepared is coming. Instead, favoring a little card draw here by bouncing the rabbit.
Finds another crab, thinking about inking it. Does put it into the inkwell. So you have 3 more available. Finally going to put the Peter Pan Shadow Finder out, and Peter Pan finds a use. The genie and the Peter Pan are able to challenge into the genie and smoothly take it out there. Makes a potential Be Prepared even more enticing for No I'm Not. He will give Artabax an additional card, but Artabax is running low on cards in hand, while No I'm Not does currently have 5 and would get 6 if his Merlin Rabbit is banished, so he would be ahead from that standpoint. Looks like Artabax quests with the Diablo, thinking about the Clarabelle.
An interesting trade there. Obviously, Artabax got a lot of value by being able to keep both of his evasive characters on the board and trading into NoImNot's Genie, but he did add 2 characters to the board and left only 3 cards in his hand. So if NoImNot wants to answer with a Be Prepared, I don't think this is the worst time to do that.
Yeah, I don't think it's the worst Be Prepared in the world by any stretch of the imagination, especially with 2 evasive characters there. It looks like he's going to ink the Queen's Castle, quest for 2, and we might see that Be Prepared come down. This is where we need Baker's excellent singing voice to come through for us. I won't curse you with my singing voice on this, but Be Prepared does come down. And NoImNot will draw a card. Artabax will also draw a card.
And tied up at 7-7 on the lore. A bit of a reset for both players here.
Yep, we do see a Magic Broom go into NoImNot's hand with a Fox off the Diablo for Artabax, and for his turn draws a white rose. Might just want to draw a card here with his rabbit.
Yeah, I think getting 2 characters out to play around a potential Tremaine is what Artabax is probably thinking about. Rabbit does seem like a good start, especially with a Fox in hand. So we might see something like Rabbit Bonsai or Rabbit Rose.
Yeah, he could also ink this turn if he wanted to Rabbit Bounce. Decides to go with the Rose. And a crab.
And a crab.
Very interesting from Artabax here. The Rose does gain that lore. They're 2 decent bodies on the board, both being 3/3s at this point. Trades into a lot of NoImNot's deck. We know the goats, the foxes, the rabbits all have 3 willpower. Double goat from NoImNot, putting on some pressure of his own, looking to ratchet up the heat on his side of the board and become that proactive player that we were talking about from game 1.
Yeah, I love that answer to the 2/3/3 bodies. 2 4/3 goats. He'll have to trade them in, but at least he won't lose that lore tempo.
He is up by 1 lore at this point. We do have a go-go in Artabax's hand, which could be a potential game closer. This turn, we're going for the Rabbit Bounce, and looks like we're going to quest along for 2 additional. These Merlin Goats will both be banished by these 2 characters if they do choose to challenge. But NoImNot will gain lore. He finds a Be Prepared.
That is always going to be a great tool against the Emerald Amethyst deck.
Yeah,
No doubt
Emerald
about it.
Amethyst, like we mentioned, something that likes to control the board with its characters, so seemingly never a terrible option available to NoImNot. Not sure if he wants to take that route right now when he can get some rabbits down and find some more answers. Does opt for a rabbit. Finds a fox. Not bad.
Yep.
Could potentially bounce back that rabbit, draw another card, or quest with one of these goats, bounce a goat back, gain 2 lore, and remove something with a fox.
Yeah, that fox opens up a lot of different options here. Ultimately, I imagine NoImNot's going to want to keep his card and hand advantage while controlling the board as much as possible.
Looks like we are going for the fox.
I don't think he wins this game by out-questing Artabax. I think the board control is essential, and that's what he's going to prioritize.
Finds another rabbit. 3 rabbits in hand, plenty of card draw. Decides to challenge in, gains the lore, and quests with a goat as well. So not opting to bounce a goat there, decides to go with the rabbit to keep his card advantage, which he has been able to keep for the majority of this game. He does have the big red button that is Be Prepared if he ever wants to take it. But of course, there are Ursula Deceivers in Artabax's deck. How many of those Deceivers does he have available to him? We know he inked 1.
Yes, he inked 1. I believe that's the only one we've seen come across. Now, One thing about this matchup is that the longer the game goes on, the less favorable it becomes for Artabax. So having high cost cards in his hand, like Elsa, might end up being a bit of a detriment, as what Artabax really wants to do is close this game out as soon as possible.
Yeah, and without that Ursula Deceiver to rip any potential Be Prepareds out of NoImNot's hand, it's risky business to play out like two Bonsais and a Cursed Merfolk, for example. Those characters are going to sit there doing nothing and then just get evaporated by Scar and his legion of singing hyenas. Bonsai
Yeah,
gonna get some friendly fire there.
going too wide here without much card draw options would be the end of the game for Artabax were he to be answered with a Be Prepared, which is exactly what No I'm Not would do.
Yeah, for sure. Artabax would love to have another one of those Madam Mims in his hand right now to return this rabbit and keep his hand full of potential questions that No I'm Not will be forced to answer. We see the fox go into the goat. No I'm Not gains a lore, goes up to 12. Now, we did see two goats come down for No I'm Not.
2 for the Bonsai. I imagine trying to decide if we're going to ink, play out another one.
Could go for the Merfolk as well if he doesn't want to ink one of the two cards that he has, the Go-Go or the Elsa, two valuable cards. Does decide to put out the Merfolk.
1 for the Merfolk.
This could be a decent B-Prep turn. There's 5 lore on Artabax's side. That might just be juicy enough where No I'm Not might want to go for that nuclear option, if you will, and he does go for it.
He does. Yeah, otherwise he's looking at 15 from Artabax on the next turn, which is way too close, especially with tools like Go-Go Tamago.
And look at that card that Artabax drew off of his Merlin Rabbit. He was 1 away from the Ursula Deceiver, which misses the Be Prepared. Very, very fortunate for No I'm Not. And I think he just drew a genie. No, he drew another rabbit. So the Deceiver comes down. He's going to get some information here. We've got 4 uninkables, 3 rabbits, and a Lady Tremaine. So Artabax likely going to want to put 2 characters down here.
Yeah, even though he wasn't able to rip a song, that information was huge. That was pivotal in allowing Artabax to plan out his next couple turns.
Decides to ink the Elsa, plays out Bonsai as well. He knows that there's not another Be Prepared in No I'm Not's hand. He's threatening a 4 lore on his next turn. He's got Go-Go in his hand, and he's got the big Clarabelle light on her hooves, which will fill his hand back up. He knows that No I'm Not has a grip full of rabbits, so that Clarabelle is going to get insane value next turn. Just might be absolutely backbreaking for No I'm Not if that Clarabelle is able to draw a bunch of cards. We do see the Tremaine finally come down.
Tremaine comes down. Artabax trying to decide which card to take. It's going to be the Ursula. And that Tremaine now threatens both of Artabax's characters. But they're going to get to quest out first. So is that going to be enough?
No, I'm not. Might just want to put the Jets on here, but finding a goat off the top for Artabax is juicy. Again, if he puts down this Clarabelle, he'll be able to draw at minimum an additional 2 cards, right? I think No I'm Not has 4 in his hand. And if he inks as well, he'll be able to draw 3. Or sorry, No I'm Not only has 3 cards in hand.
Yeah, it almost feels like that goat's is the final nail in the coffin here. But the game's not over yet.
No I'm Not could quest to 15 and get the goat out, go to 16, which is a pretty sticky situation for Artabax to be in. But the Clarabelle and the Go-Go come down, so Artabax is going to draw 3 cards off this Clarabelle, which is absolutely huge for him. And that Clarabelle is threatening to put in a big punch as far as Laura is concerned. She does quest for 2. So on the next turn, Artabax would be swinging in for 6, which is 1 away from game, if I'm not mistaken. But he did choose to ink that goat, so that is something to keep in mind. So if NoImNot decides to just quest here, that'll actually be game because he found Go-Go. So I believe that would be all she wrote. The Go-Go would give the additional lore that Artabax will need. So NoImNot needs to play around potential Go-Go's here. Cannot be caught in a rough situation, challenging with Tremaine, for example. It's really, really tough right now, the position that NoImNot's in.
And it's such a great demonstration of how much Go-Go has flipped this game on its head. When before there was no reason to ever worry about leaving damage on a character, and now you have to consider that every single turn. Are you opening yourself up to a Go-Go?
Yep, most definitely. And the Tremaine right now having 4 willpower is actually not a good thing. That bonsai can go into her, or she could go into the bonsai or the rabbit, for example. Rabbit might need to take the bonsai out here. Yep, let's draw another card. Let's see what we get.
Again, with the Maui, I mean, all of these cards that once had a favorable trade strength, now it's a weakness.
Yep. And removing that bonsai was definitely the way to go to play around a potential Go-Go. I'm not sure if NoImNot wants to play another rabbit, find some more options, maybe flood the board a little bit with some characters that can challenge a little bit better. We'll see what he decides to go with here. Sisu. He wants to empty his hand as much as possible to prevent this Clarabelle from getting even more value. So holding 2 in hand, does decide to quest. He wants to put the Jets on, force Artabax to have the answer, and potentially win this game. So we know the Go-Go is in hand. So the Go-Go could gain 2 lore off of the Tremaine, should something challenge into it. But that's essentially gaining 1 lore because you're using a character that would normally quest to challenge into the Tremaine, right? To gain the 2 lore. So right now it looks like he can gain 5 on this turn. So right now, NoImNot finding the goat, putting down the Sisu, really excellent play to put Artabax in a situation where now Artabax again has to be the reactive instead of the proactive player.
Yeah, that was. NoImNot clearly did the Go-Go math, realized that questing to get to 15 here ensured that he had lethal, and still avoided the Go-Go for the win. So, really smart plays here from NoImNot.
Okay, looks like the players are just making sure that the lore totals are correct. It looks like they are, so it looks like we're going to proceed here. In Artabax's hand, he does also have Elsa, so it's not like this is checkmate here for NoImNot. He does have available answers to him in his hand. The Tremaine can be removed by Clarabelle, and the Elsa, as well as one of these other characters on the board, can remove the Sisu. So that would leave 2 questing power on the side of NoImNot, plus the additional lore that the goat will eventually get no matter what. So this game just feels like it's on a razor's edge. Any one mistake could end up costing the game for either player, but like I said before this game started, this is the highest level of Lorcana you're going to see between 2 mid-range masters who have just had thousands of hours playing their respective color combinations.
Yeah, absolutely. And both players are considering every potential card that could be in their opponent's hand and really having to do some pretty tricky math here, because they are both 1 challenge or 1 quest in either direction from winning or losing this match.
Artabax thinking about all the options he has. Like I said, the Elsa could come down and remove some of this questing power, get that Sisu off of the board, which I think he probably wants to do. It does quest for 2. Could consider getting rid of the Merlin right now and it's a guaranteed lore regardless. Maybe you don't want it questing at all.
Right, and the Elsa has a lot of potential here to exert any of NoImNot's characters. Then the Clarabelle can challenge any of them that might be the goat to get it off the board right away and limit how much additional lore it can gain.
I think NoImNot would love to see that Clarabelle get exerted because he has the Maui Hero to All in hand, the beautiful enchanted on NoImNot's side, which can trade cleanly with the Clarabelle, and then there's no worries about any go-go shenanigans.
This close to the end of the game that Ursula really has no more value. I can't imagine any scenario where NoImNot is playing to be prepared when he's this close to the finish line.
Yeah, the only thing I could think of is maybe he has enough to quest. He's one away, plays it Be Prepared to get rid of the Merlin to cross the finish line. But I'm on the side of you right now. I agree. I don't think Be Prepared would be great in this position for NoImNot just because he is ahead on board and on lore right now. Artabax just thinking about all of his possible plays here, counting out the lore, doing the math, tapping the table, figuring out the numbers. Looks like he's going for 5, maybe, the Elsa.
Artabax had played out that go-go that's in play without getting any free lore value off of it. Part of me wonders what 2 go-go's in the hand right now would have done for him.
Yeah, that's true. That would cost 8 ink to do that, correct? It's 2 for the go-go plus 2 for the kicker to gain the lore. But he does exert the Sisu, like we mentioned. Right now, the Sisu can be removed by Elsa plus another card. Maybe wants to get rid of the rabbit to draw an additional card. I mean, if you get rid of the go-go, I don't think that's what you want to do because there is the potential to bounce the go-go back to your hand, right, and use it. So I think keeping the go-go alive over the rabbit is the right choice. Down comes Ursula Deceiver. He's going to see that the Maui is there, so maybe no quest from Clarabelle this turn. Or no challenge from Clarabelle, rather. But if that is the case, then Sisu and Tremaine, one of them will remain on the board because Artabax needs to challenge with all 3 of his characters here to... Or sorry, at least 2 of them to remove them both.
Yeah, that's right. And trading the rabbit to get the card draw gave him the Diablo. I don't think that that's the card or the 1-drop that he was hoping to see here, but he's going to get it into play nevertheless. Inking the go-go, realizing there isn't going to be an opportunity for it at this point.
Yeah, also does weaken the Sisu, right? So keeps more health and every bit of damage matters at this point. The Sisu's going to deal 2 to the Elsa. The Tremaine will be removed by the Clarabelle. And he can quest for 1. He cannot quest with the Ursula as it just came down this turn. So we go to 14, and on Artabax's side, he is representing game. He's got 6 exactly on the board. But we know the Maui's in hand. He had no choice but to turn that Clarabelle sideways, and we find an Elsa, the 5th Spirit. He can play both cards. It's huge for him.
Incredible pull, yeah. Incredible pull.
So right now, the Maui can come down, can remove the Clarabelle.
He has a way to get rid of that evasive go-go now with the Elsa. Can exert one of those readied characters. Just a lot of options here, but they're all definitely in NoImNot's favor.
I'm sure that Artabax would have loved to see that Gazelle in his hand on the previous turn. It could come down to give a character evasive. If Clarabelle had evasive this turn, he'd be feeling a lot better. But NoImNot does find the Elsa. We see him on his side of the board, tapping the table as well, doing some math. Like we said, any small mistake is going to be the end of the game. Have to play pretty much perfectly here to squeak this one out.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that Maui can't attack either of those evasive characters. It's been a long time since we've played Maui's Fishhook, but that would be a great card to have in hand right now.
Gotta agree with you there. The Clarabelle might have to be removed by the Maui. Go 1-for-1, although the Clarabelle was able to trade into Tremaine, getting a 2-for-1, plus all the cards that she was able to draw.
You can also see a scenario where he runs the rabbit in just to get the card draw, trade with the Clarabelle.
Well, Clarabelle's got six willpower, so it would take more than the rabbit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Five. He is thinking about the Maui. It is Maui time. Casually showing it. We're just going to trade here. Not going to even put it onto the board. Doesn't even touch the playmat.
A demigod versus a cow.
I think the demigods got a pretty good chance, but the cow fights back and they go 1-for-1. Amazing.
Taking out the go-go here.
Yep. Exactly what you got to do if you are NoImNot. Probably just going to quest here. Might want to take the Diablo out. But you're getting to the point if you're NoImNot that the bounce package is looking juicy with a potential Merlin goat. And you do have a rabbit in hand.
Yeah, and going to 17 with a goat on the board.
Yep. Would go to 17. The goat would represent 18. Then you just need 2 more. Right now, there's no way to remove NoImNot's Elsa. Gazelle would come down and do that, but NoImNot doesn't know about that. So next turn, Elsa and Ursula could go into Elsa and remove it. Looks like he does choose to quest. I think that is the right play because the rabbit is probably going to survive the next turn, or the Elsa is going to survive to the next turn. So you have to choose. Oh, Crab comes into hand for Artabax, one of the best cards he could find.
Yeah, also, a go-go would have finished it out. Elsa could have gone into Elsa, put 4 damage on, get the 4 lore, and then quest with the other 2 characters. But Crab is a great pull here as well.
Yep. Chains it into another Crab. Unbelievable from Artabax's side. He's got to have a little spike in adrenaline seeing another Crab come into his hand, because that can mean he can easily remove the Elsa or the rabbit.
And with just 1 rabbit in hand, that's going to leave NoImNot with very few options here.
Yeah. So right now, Artabax can cleanly remove either the rabbit or the Elsa, but that is it. So NoImNot will go to 19, and if he finds a goat off the top, that would be game.
I think for that reason, Artabax cannot take out the rabbit here, but we'll see.
Yep, probably going to go for the Elsa. He's thinking about putting Genie out, but he does have 3 more ink to put the he finds a fox, also another excellent option.
Yeah.
Artabax seemingly finding everything he wants here. I think he has to go for Crab, though. Boost his Elsa, take out the other Elsa, leave the rabbit. Oh, wait, he can do both! By returning the Crab to his hand, he can buff the Elsa and then also take out the rabbit with the fox. That was the best set of cards that he could find off the top of his deck. I don't think there was anything better. Unbelievable plays by Artabax. Yep.
Yep. Neither of us saw it, but he did.
And now we're in a position where NoImNot needs to find Be Prepared. Wow. Unbelievable draws for Artabax. Unbelievable plays, seeing all the lines, knowing his deck better than anyone. We see a broom. All right. NoImNot's got...
Does he have enough ink?
He's got 11. He can go to 12 ink here. So he could play the broom and the rabbit, right? And still have enough for Be Prepared? Or am I bad at math? No, he'd be 1 off, right?
At 11.
So he can play...
1 off. And then he can ink the castle.
Thinking about putting down the broom. He wants to draw 2 here with the rabbit.
Only got the 1 out. having already played 2 Be Prepareds in this game, it does feel unlikely.
Okay, so that is 5 ink. NoImNot still has 6. So if he inks the castle, he can play Be Prepared if he finds it.
Out the genie.
Yep.
Which
removing the genie is huge.
Yeah.
So that's only 3 lore now. Game is no longer being represented on Artabax's side. No, I'm not knowing what's in his deck. So with the rabbit, you can choose to... You draw with the rabbit first, so he gets to see that card. Then he can choose if he wants to banish the broom or not. Since he found the answer off of the rabbit, he did not need to banish the broom, so he's still representing game here.
Now the only decision is what to do with this castle.
I think he passed over to Artabax, who drew the genie. I think it's over. That should be game for NoImNot, who clawed back.
Incredible.
Finding the broom was definitely a good card to find off the top. But Artabax unable to remove anything here. Yep. Wow.
Yeah, 19 with the goat. Wow.
What a match we have here, ladies and gentlemen, between 2 of the best players in the world. NoImNot knew exactly what he needed in his deck. He found the Medusa, was able to put it down without banishing the broom. He did not have to get rid of it, which represented game on board. There were outs for Artabax, but he wasn't able to find them after chaining into Crab, into Madam Mim Fox on his previous turn. What a game, and we're going into game 3. How do you feel, Eric?
That was, wow, what a match. There were moments throughout where I thought either player was about to take it, and it just, the back and forth there was incredible. Artabax's draws in the penultimate turn, I thought might cinch it up, but yeah, NoImNot's plays there in that final game, and finding that Medusa to answer the genie made all the difference there.
Yeah, all the difference in the world. What an amazing match by, again, two masters of Lorcana who've been playing these decks since the game's inception. They just know what they're doing, and this is the highest level of gameplay that you'll ever get to see. Again, so thankful to Pavel for selecting us to do the casting here for this match in the Lorcana Cross Continental Challenge. If you're enjoying what you're seeing on the screen right now, leave a like. Let us know in the chat that you're hyped up, and let's get excited for game number 3 between Artabax and NoImNot. Wow.
Yeah, some really interesting takeaways from that match. I think the power of the crab is a huge one. Artabax just used it to such great effect there. And the power of the genie as well. Every time that genie was in play, it was a significant threat from both players.
Most definitely. Each player is finding different answers to that genie in the deck. Like you said, the crab, also the Peter Pan Shadow Finder that we thought might not do much, found a way to make it into the game and be very relevant. NoImNot, of course, using the Be Prepared on the subsequent turn, cleaning up the board, and then from there, it was just a game of inches. Who could get the slightest advantage over the other player throughout the game? And like we said, any mistake would spell defeat, but both players playing excellently, and NoImNot just able to sequence his cards correctly and find what he needed to get off the top of his deck. Just beautiful gameplay, and cannot wait for this third game where Artabax will be on the play.
Yeah, and that really puts NoImNot in a tough position. Having won the die roll and then losing the first game on the play, now has to run it back, get this win on the draw in a tough matchup. I think that this mulligan here is incredibly crucial for NoImNot.
Yep, hopefully NoImNot is able to find some of that curve that he's been looking for. I think he'd like to see a 1-drop into Snake again. Let's get back into the game so you can see the altar phase. Here we go into game 3. Make some noise if you're at home and you're not going to bother anyone. We're getting in to game number 3. Round 2 matchup between North America and Artabax. It's just been so great so far, and look at NoImNot's hand. Could you ask for a better start? Maybe a snake, but
yeah, maybe a snake. It's still looking pretty good. Meanwhile, Artabax's hand, no 1-drops, running quite a few in his deck, and none here in this opening hand. 13 in his deck.
No 1-drops. Thinking about altering 5 here, sending them back into his deck. Of course, Gazelle's something he wants to find later. Oh, maybe going for the Fox too, maybe not. Artabax is trying to decide what he wants to do. NoImNot looking pretty satisfied. We'll see if he decides to send anything back. Only one uninkable.
I won't be surprised if he doesn't send anything back at all. Artabax is deciding to keep just the bonsai.
Just the bonsai.
Redrawing and no 1-drop once again.
No 1-drop is going to be huge for NoImNot. He's going to be absolutely ecstatic to see that. I don't know if NoImNot decided to keep and he's waiting on Artabax to shuffle, or if he's still thinking, but that's a pretty good-looking hand for Ruby Amethyst.
Yeah, quite a sea change from that first match in terms of who has the better opening hand here.
Both of these players also just absolute great people. They're pillars of the Lorcana community. Both have coaching available to them, very open and honest. If you ever have any questions for them, feel free to reach out and ask, but you can see how great they are here in this match. NoImNot finds a Flynn off the top, inks it, puts a magic broom down with nothing on Artabax's side. He's got to be feeling pretty good, but we're going to see a bonsai come down, which will stuff Flynn in its tracks.
Yeah, no 1-drop in Artabax's hand also means a bigger hand for Sisu to buff off of, if that's what NoImNot decides to play on turn 3 here. But 2 Maui's easy ink decision, like the Flynn the turn before, inking the duplicates, and the Flynn comes out.
While the Flynn doesn't necessarily need to trigger here, it is important to note that the Flynn will trade into the bonsai to slow down Artabax a bit, and on his turn 3 here, he's got the option to play a 1-drop and a 2-drop. Could put the Clarabelle and a bonsai down onto the board if he chooses. We see the bonsai, we see the Clarabelle.
Yeah. Yeah, great point about trading here, because that's exactly what NoImNot probably is going to be thinking about doing. His game plan revolves around controlling this board in the early game. As we saw in the previous game, the longer this goes on, the more it shifts in his favor. So, just like you said, trading that Flynn for that bonsai and getting that Sisu into play.
Yep, he's got 2 of the best 3-drops in the game in his side of the screen here. He's got the Fox in hand, and he's got the Sisu on board. The Sisu, of course, with 4 willpower, will trade into that bonsai and survive for his troubles. And a Madam M Fox could come down and gobble up any Clarabelles if they decide to quest.
What could be a better turn for than a genie?
Yep.
Just something that needs to be answered as soon as possible.
Yeah, definitely something that NoImNot needs to be cognizant of, but he does have that Brawl in his hand. It is an option available to him, but you might want to maybe give the Genie 1 quest and Brawl it later. But we'll see here if Artabax decides to quest with a bonsai or not. He knows it's going to be dragon food. Decides not to and passes.
Relieving a lot of the pressure on NoImNot. He must be feeling pretty good about his position right now.
Yep. No need to Fox right now. Has Brawl available to him. Could put his own Genie down. Artabax does have a pretty solid hand, though. He's got Crab, again, to get those unfair trades. He's got Elsa, the 5th Spirit. So if this Broom doesn't do much, it could get knocked out by that Elsa.
Yeah, having missed that one drop, it certainly feels like Artabax is going to have to fight for that board a bit. When he would prefer to just be questing and forcing NoImNot to chase him down.
Yeah, missing that one drop was crucial. NoImNot decides... Or he doesn't decide, sorry. I thought he inked there for a second. He's just thinking about the option of Brawl here. Brawl is not optimal because you're on turn 4, right? You want to use 4 ink on your turn 4, but Genie just representing too much of a threat too early on into this game. And next turn, we could see the Elsa come down and remove that Magic Broom, which he's been keeping on the board for the Fox. If he ever wanted to get the Fox onto the board, Magic Broom cleanly does that. But he might not be long for this world.
Trying to do the risk assessment here on questing with the Sisu. Wondering if a Crab is going to supercharge that Clarabelle, perhaps. And just passing over. Now, we know that Crab's in the end, so that was absolutely the right choice.
Yeah, and Artabax now faced with the decision to put on a little bit more pressure or relieve a little bit of pressure by removing the Broom with the Elsa. Could put down the Genie, could put down the Rabbit, get some additional options into his hand.
This early in the game, it's still in Artabax's best interest to create a wide board state. But with so many expensive characters, 3, 4, 5 cost, he's not able to put the pressure on the way that he really wants to in this matchup.
Yeah, an option could also be to remove the Sisu here. If you put the Elsa down, exert the Sisu, Clarabelle, and Bonsai could take it out. But going for a Genie.
The backup Genie is deployed.
Emergency Genie has arrived. Crab going into the ink. Diablo coming down onto the board. We'll see if the questing will begin. Now that that Crab is gone.
Still a tough position.
Yep, no quest. We're just going character for character here. Putting things onto the board. Who will blink first? Friends on the other side. Might be pretty tempting for NoImNot to sing with Sisu.
Yeah, once again, he's in a position where he's faced with a Genie. And he used a Brawl to get rid of the last one, but he's going to need to find an answer for this new one. So I'm with you. I think the Friends is a pretty tempting play here.
The Sisu is exerted. We will hear Friends on the other side, and there's the
There's a
Brawl.
Brawl.
Just what he was looking for. Just in time for Christmas.
Yep. And so if he brawls here, he'll be left with 2 ink to get the Flynn out, I think.
Yep. Could Brawl ink something, play out the Flynn. Next turn has Maui available. Quest with
so he
the
can get an
Broom.
additional draw.
Yeah. Seems like it's about time that Broom does something. We'll see here. Flynn comes down. Broom's getting banished.
I still anticipate the Brawl here, but you always want to draw your cards first so that you know what all of your options are.
Exactly. If there's one thing NoImNot tells me in every single coaching session we have, it's draw first, then
Always
decide.
draw first. Yeah. So even though the Brawl was all but guaranteed there, we watched him play out his entire turn before committing it.
Yep, exactly. And this is what we've been saying this whole time, just the highest level of gameplay you'll see in Lorcana. Clarabelle comes down. That's available for a big shift this turn.
That's a great draw.
Could ink the Elsa, put out the Clarabelle, and draw 2. Of course, if he chooses to quest with it, Maui comes down. Such an interesting match between these two players. Loving every single second.
His other options aren't too great here, right? He can play the rabbit and see what he gets, but it's not going to leave him with much ink to play anything impactful. He might be able to draw another Diablo or a Merfolk and get that out as well. He still has a turn to keep going wide before the threat of a Be Prepared.
Yep. That's always something Artabax has to keep into the back of his mind. What turn are we on? How much ink does NoImNot have? Do I have an Ursula Deceiver? Doesn't have the Deceiver right now, but has the Clarabelle. Can draw a lot of cards. And like you were saying, the other options I'm not too fond of, but I'm no Artabax, that's for sure.
Yeah. The Elsa into the Flynn is an option. But the Flynn isn't, even if it were to gain the lore, isn't the biggest threat here. The real threat in this game is just time.
Mm-hmm. The clock is ticking. Artabax got a bunch of characters onto the board early, but missing that one drop was huge. He would have loved to have a cursed Merfolk. Got 2 bonsais down, but despite all that, still only at 2 lore here on his turn 6, I believe. He's got 5 right now. Thinking about the Elsa, but also the Shift Clarabelle could be an option. Does choose to go with Elsa. Exerts the Flynn. Flynn, probably not long for this world. We'll see him. Bye-bye, Flynn. And now we're putting on the pressure. We're going to start questing, and we go up to 6 for Artabax. And could always choose to put that Clarabelle down on his next turn should the Clarabelle make it. But NoImNot, of course, knows that that is an option in the deck, so we could just see the Sisu go into the Clarabelle, potentially see a Maui come down and remove the bonsai. Then we put Artabax back in the same spot he was in.
Yeah.
Did Artabax skip ink on that turn?
I didn't see.
Because Artabax went first, right? He's only on 5. And NoImNot can ink this turn, so he'll go to 6. So he may have skipped his ink on that turn, valuing the Elsa and the Clarabelle over the potential ink. Down comes the Fox. What's he going to do? He's going to remove the Clarabelle. He knows about the shift option. That is online with 5 ink. She costs 7, but shifts for 5. So this gives NoImNot the opportunity to ink the snake and play Sisu out.
Interesting now that he didn't ink, but he did quest with the Clarabelle, knowing it can be removed with the Fox. Now he's 2 turns away from being able to just play that Clarabelle. I wonder why not just ink it the previous turn.
Yep. Instead of playing out the Sisu, which, again, Artabax is running low on cards, so that's going to be less valuable as the game goes on, and Artabax doesn't have more in his hand, but he finds a Clarabelle off the top. Unfortunately, with only 5 ink, can't play the Clarabelle and ink it this turn, so he's going to have to go for the rabbit. But NoImNot bounces the Fox back to his hand and has that available to him again. We see the Elsa go into the ink, and surely Clarabelle will be seeing the board next turn.
He just squeeze in as much lore as he can.
Yeah, and the Elsa is a bit annoying for NoImNot, but fortunately for him, she only quests for 1, but with no answers for her right now, it is something he needs to be aware of. Artabax slowly ticking up.
Artabax playing out that Clarabelle at the same time that NoImNot is going into his 7th ink is very interesting. He said, I don't think you have Be Prepared. You better have it.
Yep. Unfortunately, does not. Could ink and potentially bounce the rabbit back here. This Clarabelle is going to be massive, though. the last thing that NoImNot wants to see. And unfortunately for him, everything that he can play this turn is going to return another card to his hand. So he can't really thin his hand too much.
Trying to decide whether or not to ink this Elsa. Ultimately, he's going to do it.
Here comes the fox, returning the rabbit. 2 cards are going to go into NoImNot's hand now, making that Clarabelle even juicier. Of course, the rabbit just switches places with the fox, but also draws a card. So, likely going to see Ursula go into the ink, Clarabelle be shifted, and Artabax drawing additional cards here while putting on even more pressure. Chooses the genie instead. Genie does quest for 2, finds a cursed merfolk. Now he can really put on some more pressure.
And I suspect he knows he's free of the threat of be prepared. So he's going to play that merfolk out. After careful consideration.
Yep. Be prepared is something you probably want to find at this point. If you're if you're NoImNot. Right now it's 11-2. Things are starting to get out of hand, and Artabax saw that Elsa go into the ink, so there's no immediate answer for this Cursed Merfolk, and he hasn't been able to answer the Elsa yet, so the genie seems pretty safe. Do we find the be prepared? No.
No. Rabbit might find it, but he's not going to be able to play it this turn. Artabax representing 18 next turn.
Yep. That merfolk and that genie's going to quest.
Yep. NoImNot can take out the rabbit, take out the Clarabelle.
But we'll put down another rabbit. Maybe we'll find a brawl. Elsa. Puts the goat into the ink. Genie coming down. Looking for those answers. Could sing. But you want to get that lore off the board, I would think.
Genie and Elsa together can answer Artabax's genie next turn, but it may just be too late by then.
Yep, Artabax going to go to 16 next turn, and now you're in a position where it feels like it's a little unwinnable for Ruby Amethyst, even after that beautiful start. Artabax just able to chain threats one after the other. Look, he drew another genie now. And a bonsai. It's just nonstop pressure coming from the side of the Emerald Amethyst deck.
And no good removal on NoImNot's side. No Medusas, no Tremaines. We saw our brawls earlier in the game.
Yep.
But what he really needs is that hard removal, and he's just not finding it. Interesting cloud kicker here. 4 in the deck, and I think this might be the first one we've seen in 3 matches.
Kit could come onto the board and send a genie back to hand.
Just a huge punish, even though it gives NoImNot the opportunity to draw another card. That's still a huge loss of a 4-cost character.
Crazy loss in tempo, a potential answer to one of these other genies. Here we go, questing out with everything, going up to 16. And if NoImNot doesn't find a be prepared on his next turn, that might just be all she wrote.
Yeah, whether he bounces this genie away with Kit or not, he decides not to.
Just puts more pressure on. Interesting. Yeah. He says, you have to have it or I win the game. I've got 2 unexerted characters here that are representing 4. If you don't have be prepared, my friend,
yeah,
Europe's
he can
taking
deal with
another
one of them. Elsa can deal with bonsai. And it looks like we have is that a Tremaine he drew off the top?
Yep, Tremaine off the top. I think we need to sing He knows what he needs to stay in this game. We get a rabbit off the top into the Be Prepared. There it is.
What a relief.
Feeling
Incredible.
a lot of relief on the side of Ruby Amethyst here. Let's just do our thing and quest a little bit. Go to 4. Artabax knows what's on the way. He's preparing to scoop these cards up off of the board. Forced his opponent to have it. No, I'm not able to dig into the deck with friends on the other side. Dr. Facilier able to provide that Be Prepared for No, I'm not. And it's not over, folks. It is not over. Artabax with 1 card in hand, but probably the best response to Be Prepared in his deck is Clarabelle, who will draw like a million cards. Every time I mention it, he doesn't play the Clarabelle, but now has to be the time,
This is the moment. This is what he's been waiting for, yeah. All of those little Clarabelles, all of those opportunities to shift, not enough value. Now, maximum value.
For sure, we will see 4 to 5 cards being drawn from Artabax should he put this Clarabelle down. That is your Clarabelle update for the turn, which I've been giving you all game.
Yeah, if I had been in Artabax's position, that Clarabelle would have come out so much sooner, and now we're going to see how it is the perfect response to Be Prepared. And potentially get him right back into this game.
We'll see what we draw here. Artabax not showing us, keeping his secrets. Doesn't matter. He's playing Clarabelle. Of course you are. He's going to end. He doesn't want us to know. All right, here we go. Zagogo. Tremaine, though, in the hand of No, I'm not. So he has that immediate answer.
2 instant lore options here from Artabax.
Yep, that might just be it. The Clarabelle value, absolutely insane. Puts the Genie down instead of a Tremaine. Genie costs 4, Tremaine costs 6, so he has the additional ink. I see it's there stacked up. So he does have the option. And again, everyone watching, draw first. He knows he's playing the Tremaine. Let's put the Genie down. Draw a card. Genie puts pressure on. Genie needs to start questing to get back into this game. You can't just sit here, do nothing. Gotta quest eventually. So we'll put the Genie down. Genie will quest for 2, hopefully. And then Tremaine will also quest for 2 and start to get us back into the game. 16-10 doesn't feel bad. If you're No, I'm not, feels a lot better than 6-16. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, and this also leaves him with the option to bounce the Tremaine, replay it, or play the Medusa. So he does have some control options here, but Artabax has full grip and is going to be drawing every turn.
Artabax can either damage one of these characters with Elsa or remove it outright by going Elsa Crab. Ooh, goat. That's probably a game.
Yeah.
That's probably it. That is probably it. Right now, you play Elsa, right? You play Elsa, you exert something, deal 2, then play Go-Go, gain 2, then Goat Rose wins game, but we'll just Goat bounce, and that's it. He's got Goat and White Rose in hand. It's over. That will be Europe taking it. Another win on the board for the European side. He's representing game not only on the board but also in the hand of No, I'm not, or of Artabax. No, I'm not probably knows that he's been in this position before. There's a goat in hand, and Artabax is at 18. If he doesn't win in 2 turns, bare minimum, it's over.
Yeah, no answers here. No possible answers here.
The Clarabelle...
It would take the whole world to save this game.
Yep, the Clarabelle finding that ultimate value, like you said, drawing all of those cards right at the end when he put out all the gas. the perfect follow-up to the Be Prepared. Artabax kept it in his hand the whole game, had every opportunity to play it earlier, but saves it until the opportune moment to seal the game, essentially, for the European side.
Yeah, incredible playing. Oh, come on, show him your hand. Put him out of his misery.
For sure. Just, I have goat rows. We can listen into the players if we'd like. Can unmute this here.
Yeah, it might be over. Neither of them are moving.
I've unmuted the players, so we'll see what happens here in the final moments. We know that it's over, so we'll just let them. Kendall just thinking about all of his turns.
Thinking about his whole life while Artabax lets him sweat.
Yeah, is there a way out of this? We know that there's not, but Kendall, the great player that he is, thinking about every possible out that he could have. Knows about the goat. We saw it.
Sing with Genie.
Friends rather than questing with the Genie. Using the Elsa, I imagine exerting the go-go.
Has to exert the Fox,
Elsa
right?
tapping
And trade in
the
Tremaine.
Fox.
And then
Tremaine into Fox.
Play Medusa to remove Go-Go, right?
Medusa Go-Go. And I'll pass.
And if there wasn't Goat Rose in hand, he'd be in a good position.
Okay, good game.
GG.
That Clarabelle
was yeah. That's my win option. Otherwise, you're outvaluable.
3 very different games, huh?
Well, did you? How long did you have that in your hand, though?
For very long, very long. I always
Clarabelle.
Yeah. Since I turned 4 or something, I had the option to shift her earlier, but I thought I want you to draw more cards and make you react, and then when all is gone, then I play her. I think was probably right.
All right, so we heard a little bit from the players there after the match, just talking about that brutal Clarabelle. No, I'm not asking how long you had that thing, and Artabax telling him he had it pretty much the whole time. We're going to switch over to the standings here, and I've got updated ones for you. It is 5-9 in the favor of Europe. They maintain that 4-game lead that they were able to get from round 1. 2 wins for Moyen plus Spessy as well, who subbed in for round 1. 2 wins for Artabax, 2 wins for Frank Karsten, 1 from Kala, and 1 from Tim Bichot. On the side of North America, Dale got a win in round 2. Zach Bivens got a win, Sailor got a win, Lamb Chops got a win, and No I'm Not got a win in the first round. Here we have the players with us after what I would consider to be one of the most exciting matches that we have seen, especially that second game. It was on a razor's edge the entire time. I personally would just like to give it over to you two, Artabax and No I'm Not. Just tell us about that game too, and how you were able to navigate it from start to finish. It felt like if anyone made a single mistake, the game would have just been over, but you both played it masterfully.
No, I didn't play it masterly.
Okay,
I didn't make a misplay.
Tell us.
I mean, in overall, I think, you have so many decisions, so you make some mistakes. I had the Clarabelle and inked my Go-Go because I thought the Go-Go will have no value anymore to draw more cards out of Clarabelle. But it came out that the Go-Go would have won me the game. So was a misplay then. I was greedy to draw more cards out of the Clarable because I thought his only out would be prepared, and then the Go-Go has no value anymore, probably for the whole game. So I just thought So you have the decision: do you keep the Go-Go? Is the Go-Go better than any card you draw out of Clarable? And I just thought I ink it because the Go-Go will have no value anymore. But then he started trading with Maui and Elsa, and somehow he was able to clear my board without B prepping, and then the Go-Go would have been insane. But maybe it was no misplay, but it's still lost me the game at that point. But it's maybe in other situations otherwise would be better. So it's no clear misplay, but it lost me the game in this situation.
In that moment, what were the cards that you would have valued more than the Go-Go?
Artabax.
Oh, is he?
Did you hear him?
Yeah, is he? I thought you asked. No, I'm not sorry.
Oh, he was asking.
No, I would have liked to draw a goat or even more card draw, like Rabbit or Genie or even Diablo 1-drop or something. I just thought that the Go-Go is then a 2/2 evasive that does nothing. Because I expect if he B preps, then it's my turn, and what do I do with the Go-Go in my hand? So nearly every card in my deck is then better than a Go-Go. But he didn't B prep. I had to see more the lines that he doesn't need to B prep at that spot, and somehow he had then a serious clock on his side. So it kind of overwhelmed me a bit. But I think it was a very close game. I think it was very, very tight.
Yeah, and we saw that towards the end of the game 2, that is, Artabax, you drew in a crab and then drew in a crab and then drew in a fox, which was like the exact perfect cards, right, that you needed to clear out NoImNot side. But then NoImNot, you were able to come back. You had the magic broom and the rabbit in hand. But of course, talk us through that play where you only need to draw with the rabbit and can choose to draw with the broom or not, depending on what you draw. So what were you looking for there?
Yeah, so I mean, the decision to do rabbit or broom first, you just want to do the rabbit first, because you still have. I was at 18, I believe. So I have the option of drawing like a removal spell or something, in which case I don't have to activate the broom. And so what that does is that kind of lets me play around Kit. If I sacked the broom first and drew, and then I draw off a rabbit, okay, I still drew the Medusa, but then I play Medusa on his characters to prevent him from having lethal, but then he's able to like Kit me back for me not having lethal. So just choosing to draw off rabbit first, that way you don't banish the broom, and this way I have 3 characters in play to try to quest the following turn. So I was really lucky, obviously, to draw the Medusa there for his Genie, I believe it was.
So it's nearly impossible for me to remove 2 characters in one turn. So that's was the correct play from him. Yeah.
Kendall, your opening hand in that first game was a really difficult one to work with. I think you put back 6, and then you picked up 3 snakes and a fox.
Yeah, that's kind of like the punishment for playing 6/1 drops. I mean, I wouldn't do it after this tournament. Pretty much, like we had submitted our deck list prior to the tournament and everything, and we didn't know the opposing deck list, obviously. So all of the European deck list being like pretty aggressive. So 6/1 drops is already kind of risky, but I wish I obviously played more 1 drops, and that's kind of what can happen sometimes. I was on the play, which is good, but so that's why I kept the Sisu. So at worst, I'm playing a Sisu on 3, but really hoping to draw a 1 drop or a Flynn, just something to play on 2.
But then I punished it with 2 Merfolks. That was kind of unfortunate for you. That I had the nuts aggro hand then to punish that. Yeah.
And on the opposite side of the coin, right? In game 3, we thought NoImNot had like almost the perfect hand. Correct me if I'm wrong. You probably want Snake over Flynn in that position, going second. And then Artabax misses the 1-drop.
Yeah, I felt pretty good. Like I kept 7, so I felt pretty good about my hand. Really, the only thing different, I mean, the Maui and the Fox were maybe potential for me. I want to keep the Fox to at least try to like steal back tempo on the draw. If the Maui was an Elsa, it was like pretty much almost a perfect hand, I think. And yeah, him missing a 1-drop, I felt pretty good. We just kind of had like a board stall for a little bit where he wasn't able to quest. And I can't really remember. I mean, at one point he was able to just kind of go wide enough to where he was comfortable with questing. And my B prep was
Nowhere.
Yeah,
to
the two
see.
genies were also
couple
the
turns
two
too
genies were
short.
very the two genies from my side were very painful for you, I think. So I
Yeah.
could raise a bit more.
Yeah, not
Yeah, we were
like
like
the brawl
weren't
one and-
questing, and I was just trading brawls with the genies, but we
Yeah,
still
yeah.
weren't questing, so I was kind of happy with that. And yeah, really, I was hoping, I was like counting like the cards that were in play and everything, and I was like, all right, I'm almost like 20 cards deep, so feel like a B prep's coming soon, but yeah, just a couple turns a little too late.
Yeah, it felt like on the Ruby Amethyst side, you were getting Tremaine a lot more when you would probably prefer Medusa in this matchup, I think.
Yeah, for the most part, I would prefer Medusa. Tremaine maybe like for instance that post B prep when he was just able to just play Clarabelle. Obviously Tremaine was really good there, but yeah, I really kind of needed either a B prep on time or really like an Elsa around turn 5 to kind of stabilize the game a little bit better.
Artabax, can you talk about holding that Clarabelle? There were a lot of opportunities to shift it and to play it earlier, but when you eventually did play it, it was like the most optimum Clarabelle I've ever seen. Can you talk about like holding it for so long?
Yeah, the good thing was I drew a lot of genies and rabbits, so I could grind a bit before I play my Clarabelle. Because this matchup, often the Ruby Amethyst player can, I don't want to say easily, but he can outvalue the green purple player very often, because it often there are stalled boards where nobody can quest, and then they play all their 2-for-1 cards like Medusa and Tremaine and cards that all do card advantage, where green purple lacks a bit. So the Clarabelle is your win option. You really need it often, especially when the games get very grindy. And so I knew when I shifted too early, then I draw to his hand size, but then he still has the more powerful cards. Then he Maui's my Clarabelle, and then I don't get much value out of it. And then he can still. So I have only 2 Clarabelles in my deck. I would like to play more, but I just submitted it with only 2, and I know she's my winning option, and I really need it as late as possible to make him draw more cards. At some point, he has to play his rabbits. He can't do nothing, and then you always
I
need
think holding it, I mean, you're able to probably get more cards out of it. Because I was a little low on cards, and then eventually, I mean, once I missed on B prep, like I had, like you said, I had to play rabbits, and like bounce them to try to just dig deeper, and to be prepared. But
if he would have found the B prep earlier, then I had to play her earlier, so I wouldn't get that much value out of her. So I was kind of lucky that he B prepped that late in the game, so went into my favor a bit with the Clarabelle.
Yeah, Kendall, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say for NoImNot, seeing the Power of the Genie on Artabax's side, and then obviously been playtesting a lot in this set. Are you considering maybe upping your number of Genie? Or are you happy with 2? Or how do you feel about that card overall? It's been a card people have been talking about a lot ever since it was revealed, and there are a lot of differing opinions. I want to hear from both of you about the Genie and how you feel it's currently positioned.
yeah, I think that Genie is really good. That's something I'm still playing around with. I definitely wish or feel like I should probably play more. in a sort of control shell, I don't think we're ever doing something like playing more genies than rabbits, like a 4-2, 4 genies, 2 rabbits. I think obviously the first testing point would be 3-3, like that's just an even split of genie and rabbit. The issue is the uninkable counts, obviously. A lot of times, like I know Ed had put out a list earlier in the set, and it was 4-4, which, like, obviously that's just great if you get to play 4 of both of those, but then you're sitting at like 16 uninkables. Sometimes you might run the risk on bricking. But yeah, I think Genie is really good for all of the Amethyst decks, and I would definitely consider playing more.
Yeah, but I think in my deck he's even better than because I have Clarabelle and such cards too, and he really needs the rabbits for making card advantage. I think 4 rabbits and your Ruby Amethyst. Maybe 3-3 could also be good, but rabbit is still a really good card. Yeah.
You also just kind of need them to just combat other genies as well, as bad as it is. But having to just the 2-4 body is so huge, so that like even just having to swing Genie plus Elsa into an opposing Genie just to control them. But yeah, Genie really good pick up for all of the Amethyst decks, and yeah, I think Artabax is probably really happy because I think the power level of green purple went up a lot more with Go-Go and Genie, but
yeah, Artabax is playing a ton of these set 5 cards: a White Rose, the Genie, the Gazelle, the Go-Go, as you mentioned. Eric, what question did you have?
Kendall, you had talked about sort of being punished for only playing the 6/1 drops and not knowing when you submitted this list that so many of these European decks were going to be faster, more aggressive, and it kind of feels like that's where the meta is at right now. It's a faster, more aggressive meta. Do you think that the Ruby Amethyst list is going to need to shift significantly to contend in this faster meta?
Yeah, I knew one thing for certain was, like, for instance, playing the 4 Elsas. There was like mixed feelings about Elsa, I think, towards the end of the set, but I think Elsa is definitely like a 4 of where you want to start, and then you would want to be at like 8 1-drops for sure, at least. I don't know about playing more than that, but it's happened before, but that was a long time ago when we'd play like up to 10. You probably don't need that many, but yeah, you just definitely have to have a very early game. You can't just be slow like that, like how I did. Even playing, something on 3, is just too slow a lot of times.
And as far as your deck is concerned, Artabax, how are you currently feeling about the build? I mean, you've won 2 matches now. One thing we haven't seen much of is that 4/7 Ursula, which of course was a staple of the deck in the last set where you played 3 of them, right? So are you still happy with that card? Is it as a is it just a big threat that needs to be respected, or are you thinking about changing a few of the numbers here after play testing throughout the past couple weeks?
Yeah, I wouldn't play her at all in closed deck list probably, because I think she's really weak right now. But I want to respect my opponents to respect the shift, so I can maybe sometimes they remove my 2-drop Ursula because they are afraid of shifting it. But overall, I think she is not very good right now. I talk with LD a lot in my podcast about it because I don't know. Somehow she doesn't do much right now because there are many evasives, and there you can't use her second ability. And in the meta, she really also our deck got way faster, and really it lasted. The green purple deck was way more mid rangey, where you could afford to play more high cost characters. But what I really want to do is to play more Clarabelles, big ones, and 3 or even 4. But the Ursula in closed deck list, I probably wouldn't play her at all. I think there's 2 less opportunities where you can shift her, and even if you can, you rather play some 2 small characters than shifting 1 big one. Then can probably not, if she's exerted, it's not that hard to remove her for most decks. So yeah, not. I incur nearly 95% of my games I incur. Sometimes if I'm up top, I incur the end game or so, but yeah.
It's such a beautiful enchanted, though. It's hard to put her in.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You have to play this card.
Yeah, Eric, any other questions for our players here?
No, I'm good. Those are great games, you guys. Thanks a lot for letting us watch.
Yeah, thanks again. I mean, for Pavel for doing this whole thing, because it's definitely been fun. I hadn't played against Artabax in forever, so and it might be forever again, but hopefully it's at Worlds, so we'll see.
Yeah.
A matchup at Worlds would be epic of epic proportions. It's the Emerald Amethyst Master going against the Ruby Amethyst Master. It was amazing to see. Thank you both so much for allowing us to watch and cast this amazing matchup. Is there anything you all want to say to close this out? Any shout outs you want to do? Where can we find you? I have your socials linked below in the description, but I'll let you two go as well. We'll start with Artabax, and then NoImNot can finish us off.
Yeah, I have a YouTube channel, Artabax Lorcana, where I have a weekly podcast with Lorcana decklists, where we talk about everything revolving about competitive play and many green purple topics, of course. And Twitter, also Artabax Lorcana. Yeah, that's the two main. Twitch, I'm not doing much Twitch right now, but maybe in the future.
For me, I mean, shout out to all my friends and my teammates at Labyrinth TCG. And shout out to my girlfriend for letting me play a lot of card games. If you have my Twitter, mostly active on Twitter, actual NoImNot, and then also I guess maybe a good time. I just recently joined Metafy, so I can chill out my Metafy, and that's Metafy GG at NoImNot. For some sick coaching and maybe some guides coming out soon as well. So, but, yeah.
Awesome.
And again, Pavel again for
of course.
Thank you, Pavel.
Getting all this together.
Shout out to Pavel for putting all of this together and bringing all these amazing players and casters and the community together in what is a little bit of a lull between the DLCs and Continentals starting. Thank you, Artabax and NoImNot, for joining us for these interviews, and congratulations, Artabax, for another win, putting another on the scoreboard for Europe, and we can't wait to see what you guys bring in round 3. Really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
All right, Eric, that was the matchup. Do you have any final words before I wrap it up here?
I'm going to need my NA brethren to win some games, is what I'm thinking. That was an uphill battle for Kendall, for NoImNot, and he fought it valiantly. They were close games, and they were such different games. I just had a ton of fun. That's a great matchup. I love watching it.
Yeah, that was an amazing matchup. Again, we can't say it enough. Thank you so much, Pavel, for bringing this all together. The community is absolutely loving it. We had like 500 people in the watching the stream at one point. So thank you for everyone who stopped by to check out this amazing match. My name is Garrick. This is the Lorcana Lair. I make videos, video essays and things like that. So be sure to like, subscribe. It does help the channel out. And be sure to check out Eric on The Gamer. Like I mentioned at the top of the stream, he did an amazing article on Diablo, talked to some of the best players in the world about whether or not the card should be banned or not. So definitely check him out for amazing Lorcana and gaming content. He's a writer and an editor over there. That's it for us. The next match is over on Rip Lungs or Create's Twitch channel, and that is between Zan Syed and DKP. So be sure to go on over to that. Don't miss out on any of the Lorcana action today. That's going to be it from us. Thank you again for everybody to everybody for joining and tuning in, and we will see you in round number 3.